Old money doesn't look like what you think it does. Ryan is 38. Lives in Portland. Manages construction projects for a living. Makes $95,000 a year, which sounds comfortable. Until you remember, he spent 12 years paying off student loans and once cashed out his 401k at 27 to buy a truck he doesn't even own anymore. One evening, he's reading an article about a family worth $800 million. No Instagram. No headlines, just a quiet name on a library building he drives past every single day without noticing. And something clicks. Not envy. Something quieter. A question. What do they know about money that he was never taught? By the end of this video, you'll see the invisible architecture behind wealth that survives generations. And the one principle hidden inside it that works at any income, even yours. So what actually separates someone who has money from someone whose family is money? Let's start at the roots. Here's what most people get wrong about the old money mindset. They picture mansions, country clubs, last names that sound like law firms, and sure, some of that exists. But the real difference between old money and everything else isn't the amount. It's the structure underneath. Think of it like two trees. One grows fast, tall, impressive, catches every eye on the block. But the roots are shallow. First bad storm, it's gone. The other barely shows above ground for years. A decade in, you'd walk right past it. But underneath, the root system is deep, tangled, anchored into bedrock. That tree will outlast the house next to it. According to Thomas Stanley's research in the Millionaire next door, about 80% of American millionaires are first generation. They built it themselves. But here's the thing. Most of that wealth doesn't make it to the grandchildren. The Williams Group found that 70% of wealthy families lose their fortune by the second generation, 90% by the third. The families who beat those odds, they didn't just grow tall. They grew roots first. Ryan didn't come from money, but sitting in that coffee shop, reading about a fortune managed by people whose job title is literally family steward. He started wondering, what would it look like to build even a small root system of his own? Most people think the wealthiest families got there by taking the biggest risks. It's actually the opposite. At the earliest levels of generational wealth, money is not discussed. Not because it doesn't matter, because talking about it signals that you're still thinking about it, and at that level, thinking about money is for the people who manage it on your behalf. Now, you and I, we're not there. Ryan's definitely not there. But there's a principle buried inside that silence worth pulling out. The Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances shows that the median American household has a net worth of roughly $193,000. But here's what the number doesn't show. Most of that is home equity, liquid savings, retirement accounts, the money you can actually use. For a lot of families, that number is painfully thin. Ryan knows this firsthand. His neighbors, a couple in their early 50s, pull in a combined $180,000 a year. Nice house, 2 leased cars, kids heading to college soon.
Earlier,
At a block party
really
last summer,
didn't mean for it
after
to
a
come
couple of
across
beers,
that way.
the husband admitted something
I
quietly.
just had a lot on my mind.
They can't retire before 70. Mortgage. Home equity line of credit. The golden handcuffs of a lifestyle that looks successful from the outside, but feels like a treadmill from the inside. They grew tall. No roots. Meanwhile, Ryan thinks about his own father, 67 years old. Electrician his whole life, never earned more than $65,000 in a single year. But he owns his house outright, has a pension. Social Security covers the rest. Never once talked about money at the dinner table. Ryan used to think his dad was just quiet. Now he's starting to wonder if his dad understood something about wealth preservation that most financial content never mentions. The first root isn't income. It's the discipline of needing less than you have. Quietly, without anyone watching. Stealth wealth isn't a strategy for the rich. It's a posture anyone can adopt. But here's the part most people never see. What happens when that discipline scales across an entire family? For decades, at higher levels of old money, wealth isn't protected by good habits alone. It's protected by architecture, trusts, family limited liability companies, governance documents, succession plans. The kind of legal scaffolding most people only encounter when a relative dies and the paperwork is a mess. Ryan read about a family, no names, because that's the point, whose grandfather established a discretionary trust in the 1960s. The grandchildren receive distributions. They don't control the principal. They're beneficiaries, not owners. The distinction is legal. It's also psychological. Think about that for a second. The money is technically yours, but you can't touch it on impulse. You can't drain it during a bad year or an emotional decision. The structure protects the wealth from the people it belongs to. Now, Ryan doesn't have a trust fund, but he did something small after reading that article. He set up an automatic transfer, $400 a month into a Roth IRA, not because the amount is life-changing, because the principle is, take the decision out of your own hands. Make the structure do the work, so your willpower doesn't have to. According to Fidelity's 2023 retirement analysis, people who automate their savings consistently have retirement balances nearly 4 times higher than those who contribute manually. Even when the monthly amount is similar, the structure matters more than the intention. Old money figured this out generations ago. They just built bigger structures. You don't need a family limited liability company. But you might need a system that doesn't depend on you remembering to be disciplined every single month. Roots grow in the dark. You set them up, and then you leave them alone. If you're thinking, I can barely save $400 a month, let alone build a trust, I hear you. And you're not behind. You're just at a different stage of the same process. Here's where the old money mindset gets personal. At the family level, the wealthiest households don't just pass down money, they pass down behavior. And most of it is unspoken. A child in an old money family learns early. You don't talk about what you have. You carry yourself with restraint. You notice who brags, and you learn to read that as insecurity, not success. Nobody sits them down and explains this. They absorb it the way kids absorb everything. By watching. Ryan doesn't have generational wealth to pass down. But he has a 7-year-old daughter, and last month, something happened that stuck with him. They were at Target. She wanted a toy she'd seen on YouTube. $35. He could afford it. But instead of just buying it or just saying no, he tried something different. He asked her, "Do you want this? Or do you want to put that $35 toward the bike you've been saving for? She thought about it. Chose the bike. Small moment. No lecture. But a root was planted. Pew Research has shown that financial habits are strongly influenced by household behavior patterns observed during childhood. Not by income level. Not by education. By what children see practiced at home. How parents talk about purchases. How they handle setbacks. Whether money is a source of shame or a quiet, matter-of-fact part of life. Let me stop here. Because the next part shifts the frame on everything we've been talking about. There's a part of the old money story that rarely gets mentioned in videos like this. The cost. Ryan kept reading about that $800 million family. And the deeper he went, the less envious he felt.
Yes, but what about
Family
the risk
council
factors
meetings that
associated
last
with the new
full days,
property?
cousins who get denied liquidity for a business idea because the trust requires unanimous consent, a relative who wanted out entirely, wanted to take her share and walk away, and was voted down 5-2. She stopped coming to family gatherings after that. The wealth survived. The relationship didn't. Generational wealth at that scale isn't freedom. It's stewardship, and stewardship has weight. Here's what Ryan realized. And honestly, it's the most important thing in this entire video. The old money mindset isn't something you copy. It's something you translate. You take the principle, roots before branches, structure over impulse, teach without preaching, and you scale it to your life. Your actual life, not an $800 million life. Because the family with the trust fund and the family office and the name on the library, they optimized for one thing: not losing. That's Morgan Housel's distinction in The Psychology of Money. Getting wealthy and staying wealthy are completely different skills, different temperaments, different definitions of risk, and there's a number from the Federal Reserve that puts all of this into perspective. It's not the one you'd expect. The top 1% of American households hold roughly 31% of all wealth. But here's the part that matters for you and me. The next 50%, people earning between the median and the top. Their biggest predictor of financial stability isn't income. It's savings rate. It's the gap between what comes in and what goes out. That gap, that's the root. That's the old money mindset without the old money. You don't need a family council. You need a Thursday evening, once a month, where you sit down, look at the numbers, and ask yourself one honest question. Am I growing roots? Or just growing tall? Remember Ryan sitting in that coffee shop, reading about a family he'd never heard of? Here's what he did that night. He went home, opened a notebook, and wrote down 3 things he spent the most money on that month, not to judge himself, not to feel guilty, just to see. That's it. That was the whole thing. And I think that's your move too. Tonight. Not tomorrow. Tonight. Grab a notebook or open your phone notes and write down the 3 biggest things you spent money on this month. Don't analyze. Don't shame yourself. Just look. That's how roots start. You look at what's actually in the soil. If someone in your life is stressing about money right now, not broke, just stressed, the way most of us quietly are, send them this video. Sometimes a different perspective is enough to loosen the knot a little. Next time, I want to show you the simplest rule that's kept old money families wealthy for generations. It's not about investing. It's not about frugality. It's about something most people never think to protect. I think it'll surprise you. The root system is patient, and so are you.